Everyone, hope you're doing well. Lee, your season so far with Arsenal, how's it going?
Yeah, very good, I suppose. Listen, I was just talking off air. I think that we're up there, and we're got the points that uh, merit us being in that position. Of course, you know what I mean. But I don't think we've played really at our best. I think there's more to come, and hopefully after seeing what I see Sunday, it's going to be that sort of performances now, because I think we're going to have to hit those sort of performances if we're going to get anywhere close to Manchester City come the end of the season.
Arteta, after the game on Sunday, was talking about you're sort of in a really good position, ready to kick on in the second half of the season. I thought that was an interesting comment. It almost sounded a bit like he was admitting that the second half of last season you weren't quite good enough to win the title, and this season he's trying to rectify it, and you're now ready to go and do what you didn't do last year. But I was quite, I don't know, I just possibly I'm reading too much into it kind of thing. But I was very impressed on Sunday, and what he said after the game. I don't know, there was something about it that just impressed me, Lee.
Yeah, well, listen, when you play teams like Liverpool and teams like that, you don't expect to be as dominant as that, even at home. You know, you expect them to have a little spell. Listen, they had a 10-minute spell in the second half after we give them the first goal. But for the first half, from the minute one to you know, really when we conceded the goal, we were so on top against a really good side. That was the most impressive thing. You know, you look at that, and if it's a team down the bottom of the league, you go, yeah, you expect that. But it was Liverpool who, don't forget, before this game, had only lost one game. They just smashed Chelsea. They'd beaten everybody that was in front of them quite convincingly. And everybody was saying before the game, oh, you know, Liverpool are going to win this because they're such a good side. They're on form and everything like that. So everything that Arsenal done that day was very, very good and very impressive. But, and there is a but there, they haven't done that enough this season. And I look back at last season, I think, you know, we were sensational up until March time, and then we just couldn't see it over the line. Like, you know, maybe we're a little bit fresher now. Maybe we've learned from that and realised that you've got to keep your powder dry to the end of the season. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what happens, like, you know. But it's only one game where we've played really, really well. Listen, since we come back from Dubai and that little bad run, which started, of course, with West Ham in the home game, we've looked a little bit different. There seems to be a little bit of a reset, a little bit of a different attitude to the team, and the likes of Martinelli in particular have started to start playing well again. And I think that front three is important to Arsenal. I don't care what anybody says. If that's up and firing, it's dangerous. And I think that Martinelli scared Liverpool. I really do. I you know, people don't give him the credit he deserves at times. It's very, very quick, direct. And, you know, when he gets a chance, he can finish as well. So I think he's very, very important to the team now going forward. And I think that front three has not been firing as well as... It's still doing okay. It's been doing okay, but it's not been firing like it was last season. I think that if that can fire now, you know, it could take us close. It could take us close. I'm not saying it's going.
Last one before we move on to the future. Last one about form. That win against Liverpool as a performance, like you said, from start to finish, perfection. Was that possibly the best you've ever seen yourselves under Arteta when you take into consideration opposition and the magnitude of the game? Really, you probably put yourself back in the title race with that win. And
yeah, I like the way we played against Man City in the game at the Emirates where we beat them 1-0. I thought it was a tactical battle, and we got over the line. But I think this one was probably the better one because it was all about the performance as well. We was exciting. It was the atmosphere was very, very good. And the most important thing was that we had to win that game. It was like a draw, I don't think would have been good enough, you know. I think so the magnitude of the performance and how we went about it, and knowing that the end result was only a win, to get it the way we did was very, very pleasing. Yeah, so I think it's one of the best performances I've seen over a period of 90 minutes. I think we've blown some teams away with some fantastic football at times in periods of 10, 15 minutes, which every team can do. But to sustain it over 90 minutes and also probably what was the best thing for me, if I'll be really honest, looking back at it, was that when we went 1-1, there was a stage where myself thinking, well, we're going to lose this now. You know, like the mentality of it all was very, very good, because I think in the past we would have lost that game. Do you know what I mean? Like, but something we rallied round, we got ourselves back, and then we took over the game again. And once we went 2-1 up, there was only one winner. And when you think about it like that, that's not been us over a period of time. So I think that that performance and that result and that ticks a lot of boxes.
Yeah, I was quite impressed by the mentality side of it. Like I said to you, I think that what Arteta did, I thought was fantastic. I thought he beat Jurgen Klopp, which is a very difficult thing to do, but he did it. And then you dominated them, and they scored through a very self-inflicted goal as well. They equalised, and it wasn't deserved. And that's the type of thing that can sometimes really deflate a team pretty quickly. There was a case of how are you going to react? And actually, I thought you came out in the second half, and I thought you were just fantastic. Actually, I felt like last season, the term bottle is usually associated to your neighbours in North London, but there was an element of that about Arsenal at the end of last season. And I think that question mark came up in the second half on Sunday, which is, well, what are you going to do? And actually, there was an attitude which I probably didn't associate with Arsenal last season, where it's, no, we're still going to get this done. We still have that belief. We still have the tactics, and we're still going to go on and win this game. And you did it. And Liverpool didn't have a chance at all in that game. And I was very impressed by Arsenal, actually, on Sunday. And there's been some games where I think you've been fortunate to win some games. But actually, to deserve to beat one of the best teams in the world takes some doing, but I think you did that. Right, you've been quite humble, I think, so far. It's difficult to gauge what you think about the title race, but do you think you're going to go on and win this league?
Do you know what? At this moment in time, I'm going to be really honest, I don't think that we will, because I think that there's another one of those Fulham games in us, and that's what worries me. We can't afford to have one of those Fulham games. If Arsenal are going to go and win the league, they've got to go and win every single game up until they play Manchester City now, which is probably going to be 5 games now, because the Chelsea game, I think, I can't see Chelsea not beating Leeds, and that means that we won't have a game for 2 weeks, two weekends, because obviously, like, we have the FA Cup game, then it's international break, and then it's Easter, and then we play Man City. So we've got 5 games, I think it is, and those games are your good selves on Sunday. Then we've got Burnley, then we've got Newcastle, then we've got Sheffield United, and then we've got Bournemouth. Now, if you look at all those games, they're all winnable games because they're at home or whatever. The one game that is going to be the real test for us to come Sunday, if we can get over Sunday, which I think is going to be difficult, and we can get to Manchester City with all of them games intact and win, it will be a showdown at the Etihad, which will be fantastic, you know what I mean? Because in between that, they have Liverpool. So I can't emphasise how important this game is Sunday and the next 4 or 5 games. I'm going to be really honest. You're going to have to ask me this question after the Bournemouth. Yeah. We beat Bournemouth and go into that Etihad game. I'm not worried about whether we can win them or not. If we win all those games, I think that we've got a chance of winning it. One slip up and we haven't, and that starts on Sunday. So I think Sunday is such a massive game for us, beyond what West Ham fans can think, and probably what Arsenal fans think, because I think that you can look at last season. I don't, but you can look at last season and go, we lost the league against West Ham when we was 2-0 up. I think if we don't beat you guys on Sunday, come the end of the season, I will say that was the game.
Yeah, I think this is the most optimistic. Obviously, this is the 3rd time I spoke to you this season now, and you've always kept your expectations in check, understandably. But I think this is the first time I'm getting an optimistic vibe about you, and it comes with the caveat that you need to go win the next 5 Premier League games. But I get the sense that if you do that, then your hopes of winning the title will increase, which is understandable. That'll be 27, 28 games played. You'll probably be top of the table. You become the favourites to go on and win it then. So yeah, it's interesting to hear you get optimistic, actually. In terms of the Champions League, though, actually, I'll give you my prediction, Lee. I don't think you win the Premier League.
No,
it's because of Man City. It's not because of you. It's because of Man City, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have this feeling that you might do the Champions League, though. I think you've got a decent draw in the next round against Porto, and then you need a little bit of luck. But I'm not sure. I've just a suspicion. I think you might end up getting that one.
Listen, I think with the European Cup, I've always said this. You know what I mean? You play Manchester if you get to play Manchester, you play them over 2 games, not 38, and I think that's a massive difference. Also, when you think going back to a game against Liverpool, you know you go along and you destroy a team as good as that at home, and we did destroy them. You know what I mean? We pumped them from start to finish. We've taken on Manchester City, the best team at home, and beaten them. That we can beat the best and mix with the best. You can't defend like we did in that instance. If we're going to go on and win it, we've got to defend a little bit better. But there's always a chance in cup competitions. You know what I mean? You know what it's like. I'm not being disrespectful when I say that. You get on a European run like you did last season. You look back at it and go, do you know what? There was a couple of games where we rode our luck a little bit, but we got through it, and the momentum takes you there, and you go on and win the cup deservedly. So there is that, I think, thing in Europe where, even though we've never won it, I do think it is a little bit tougher, because you've got a lot of tough teams in the Premier League now. Every single game's difficult. I'm not saying it's not in the Champions League, but it's 2 games in the Champions League. And then I think with the Champions League now, when it's in the knockout stages, you've got 3 rounds to get through. Yes, you need that little bit of luck, but I think that every team in the cup needs a little bit of luck. So and listen, when you look at the FA Cup at this moment in time, Maidstone are in where they are. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're the best team to get into cup competitions. You just need that little bit of luck and a bit of momentum.
Yeah. Right, last one on Arsenal then. Players in form. You spoke about Martinelli. For any West Ham fans watching that didn't watch against Liverpool, haven't watched you for a little while, who should they be looking out for?
Well, I think that the front three. I think that Jesus will come back in this game. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't. I think that them 3 there. Dare I say it, the midfield man? I won't say his name. You know what I mean? He's been outstanding for us this season. And do you know the one player that really has impressed me in the last was against Man City and now Liverpool, and he probably doesn't get the praise that he deserves, is Jorginho. He's been brilliant in the last couple. In those big games, he's been really good. I'll be very, very disappointed if he doesn't play in this game. I think that he may not, because I think Jesus may come back in and they may drop Havertz back into midfield, which would be a little bit disappointing on his part. One player that's getting back to his best, which is helping out Saka, is Ben White as well. Ben White's starting to look a lot better on that right-hand side of the defence again. I thought he was superb against Liverpool. So they're the players to watch out for. And I'm going to say it now. I don't care if he doesn't play well, but he always impresses me with his work rate, and that's our captain, Martin Odegaard. His work rate was sensational on Sunday. Sometimes it doesn't work for him, and there's been times this season when he's not been at his best, where he probably should have shot and he's passed when he should have shot. But I think if he starts producing the performance, there were some lovely little things he done on Sunday. So watch out for him, because he's always done well against West Ham, funny enough. So do you remember when he was 3-0 up against us, he was the one that sort of dragged it back for us that day, if you remember rightly. So I think that he's one to watch out for as well.
Right, from your team to my team, what do you make of West Ham this season?
Impressed. I'm going to say it now. I can't believe. I think because sometimes you don't see West Ham all the time, and from the outside looking in, but I think you're 6th, 7th in the league. Always can cause problems. I think David Moyes gets a lot of stick. I get why he gets the stick, because when you play against teams like Bournemouth at home, Brentford at home, and you're not as attacking as probably you should be, you sort of still play the same way as you'll play on Sunday. I get why fans don't like that, but I think what will happen tactically, I think he's a very, very astute manager. So when you come up against the big boys like Arsenal at home and teams like that, I think that he can get the result because of the tactics that he has, and I think that he's got the number over certain teams because of that. Listen, I think that from a West Ham's point of view, I understand that they're a little bit disappointed in certain things, but when you go away to Tottenham and you go away to Arsenal and you've won those games, I don't see how you can be quite as moany as you are at times. I think that at the end of the day, sold your best player and brought in some very, very good players to replace it. Like, you know, if you was to sell Declan Rice and bring in the players that you got, I think most of West Ham fans will go, you know what, we'll take that deal.
Yeah.
I think that has improved you. If I'll be really, really honest with West Ham, I think what West Ham need is a top striker now from somewhere. If they got that, you know, sometimes I was talking about this yesterday, a striker can cover up 1,000 sins. You know what I mean? When you're not quite at your game, you know, you end up being 1-0, 2-0. I think if you have a decent striker, or it falls to the one that's going to take the chances against West Ham, Manchester United, you could have won that game. So I think that West Ham are getting there. They're certainly up there. I don't know what's going to happen with David Moyes, but listen, it's difficult for me to say because, you know, when Arteta weren't doing very, very well, you sort of like, it's your own team. You go, no, this ain't good enough. So I understand what West Ham fans think. So I'm not going to criticise any fan that wants David Moyes out and whatever. But from the outside looking in, I think that he's done a decent job. And listen, I'm going to be really honest with you. I'm more nervous about this game than last week, like, you know, because I know what West Ham and David Moyes can do against us. You know what I mean? He has got a little bit of a thing over us, the way you set up and all that. I think other teams have looked at over a period of what David Moyes has done and said, you know what, we can do that against Arsenal and stifle them and hit them on the break and things like that. So I think West Ham have done very, very well this season. It could have gone two ways for you, you know, lose your best player, buy the wrong players. Dare I say it, like Spurs did a few years ago with Bale and struggle. But you have to give credit to whoever bought the players that's come in. They've recruited really, really well.
Sunday then. How do you see this one going?
Tough. I'll say it now. If we get out of there with a win, and I don't care how it's going to be, I'll be happy. I don't think that we're going to play as well as what we did against Liverpool, because Liverpool are a team that comes out and really, look, without being disrespectful to West Ham, they think to themselves, we're better than Arsenal, we're as good as them, we go toe to toe with them. I think, and I'll be very surprised if David Moyes does that. I think that he will sit in there and try and hit us on the break, frustrate us, make the game as slow and as bitty as he can, and then, you know, like they have done in the last couple of games, hit us on the break and all that. Nothing wrong with that, you know. I'm saying that now, and we've got to find a way of getting that and breaking that down. So I think if Arsenal get an early goal, it would be a bit beneficial. Look, we got a couple of early goals last season, but it didn't help us. So I think that hopefully we've learned from that. But I think it's going to be a difficult game for us, like, you know. So I'm probably thinking like 1-0, 2-0 at the end. I think that's what I'm hoping. I think, but if West Ham were to get something out of this game, it wouldn't surprise me.
Fantastic. Well, Lee, thank you so much. Thoroughly enjoyed that as always. I'm pleased for you to come back on, but thank you very much for joining me.
No problems whatsoever.
If you guys at home want to hear and see more from Lee, I'll put the links to his social media in the description below. But if you've enjoyed this video, please do drop a like on it, a click and thumbs up, subscribe to Hammers Chat. I'll catch you in a bit.